Hello and welcome to another Best Junglers video, this one fresh from patch 12.10, the mid-season durability changes, a whole new meta, a whole new game, League of Legends 2.0, which junglers are thriving and which junglers are diving. While certain OP champions have remained with a bit of an inflationary win rate, other bursty champions are struggling to find their foothold. Obviously this is early stages, which means we won't have all the data fully flushed out, but I will combine what we know along with what we predict will happen based upon the data and what we understand about the jungle. As always, keep your eyes on the data over the next 2 weeks. There will be an infographic of this on my Patreon along with coaching VODs and coaching signups. Don't forget my live companion volleyball guide will give you everything you need to know about that champion. That's also linked below. Now, without further hesitation, the S tier page. So as you know, with everyone gaining a base health of 70 plus 14 per level, in addition to 1.2 armor and 0.8 magic resist, Wukong really doesn't care about those things because he loves a good old-fashioned sustained fight. He likes to keep on attacking you, keep on CCing you, and then getting his Q reset as often as possible. The mobility change he got with his W has basically opened up the entire map to him, allowing his disruption gameplay and his fightery gameplay to basically have no limitations. He was very strong in OP before this patch, and that has continued to be the case on live. He of course was already difficult to kill and deal with because he gained armor from his passive and also got regeneration of his health. This means he will outdamage you and kill you long before you can deal with him. And you know what, maybe you just focused a different squishy target, killed them, and then as a team dealt with the monkey. You can't do that as reliably anymore because everyone's a little bit tankier. This means if you face a Wukong, brace up, it's gonna be a long game. Talia, since her rework, I put out a gameplay and I said this is an S+ tier jungler. The win rate didn't represent it. Other high elo players soon came out after playing some games and said, yes, this is definitely an S+ tier jungler. And now her win rate really does represent that. Absolutely destroying the map with her boulder second Q. This consumes the worked ground that she has from using Q1. And obviously there's a little less damage in that Q1, but before she'd kind of use it, have the worked ground and then just chuck a pebble at you and could do nothing else in that space. Obviously now that isn't the case, there is no damage on the W, but that E is an absolute game changer. The reshift in terms of, length instead of width and being the best anti-mobility thing in the game is really showing her to destroy anything that has a dash and mobility. It is an absolute game-winning spell, and when used correctly with your W as well as your Qs, and of course naturally enjoying the fact that you are tankier, you can now keep your distance a bit more, and you can basically DPS down anyone. You're not just a burst mage anymore. Yeah, we do burst people, but you have a lot of damage over time component now. Well, who would have thought this? Shyvana, who really wasn't that great in high elo, but was a bit of a hidden OP pick. I put her in my A tier personally. Now, definitely S+ tier in terms of data. I don't necessarily agree that she will be cut and dry S+ in 2 weeks, and 3 weeks, and 4 weeks. We'll see how the changes go. But currently, the reduction in healing and shielding to go with the increase in resistances means she is even more difficult to kill, and her percentage max HP damage allows her to thrive because of that E passive. Whether you're building full AP and nuking people, you are overkilling people anyway, so you don't really care that there's a bit more HP. You can obviously go Shadow Flame now, very, very strong in this patch. If you're playing the Demonics Frostfire build, no one is killing you. You chase them down, you finish them off, you're unholy tanky, you have too much damage for them, you're a drain tank, you're a DPS doer, thriving with the win rates, thriving in the new meta. And the drain tank thing is kind of like if you run Blade of the Rune King, you're getting lifesteal and so on. It's not literally an Aatrox drain tank. Next up we have Kha'Zix, and yes, they did reduce heals from champions. A lot of the junglers here will have some kind of reduced healing. Everyone was kind of reduced by a similar amount, so I'm not really going to address it by a per case basis. But in Kha'Zix's case, it hasn't really shifted anything. Yes, assassins will 100% hit. Yes, burst damage will be less reliable, specifically in those early phases until itemization is gathered. But Kha'Zix really does like a good old-fashioned extended fight. Kha'Zix was also highly overkilling everybody. So it doesn't really matter that everyone has more HP, because if they have 500 HP and you do 1000 damage, you don't really care if they have 570 HP, yeah? Use your unseen passive threat, use your W as you can, make sure you're using your R to reposition. Kha'Zix really doesn't care about long fights, and again, you still have enough burst damage to do what a lot of assassins cannot. Next up, we have my Volibear. As I mentioned, the live companion guide will give you all the builds updated and fresh for this patch. I've just sent it to the program. But even though his W heal is reduced, it doesn't really make much of a difference. If you're Chem Tank, who's actually killing you now? If you're building my Trinity Force Titanic Hydra Frozen Heart build, you're more than tanky enough with more than enough damage to deal with your enemies. And remember, percentage max HP spells are going to be super valuable. Even percentage missing, percentage current, it doesn't matter. If you deal with percentage health damage, you are going to be able to do way more than champions who don't have that kind of damage in their kit. But again, we just became tankier. We love long fights as Volibear. The second W proc on the same target is absolutely juiced. Our ultimate makes us even tankier, just like the Shyvana transformation. There really isn't anything the bear can't do at the moment. I think he's in an absolute sweet spot. However, the W heal reduction has seemed to tickle him just a little bit in the win rate department, so we will keep an eye on that, of course, and we will see what changes come forward in the next patch and the patch after. But for now, the bear is ready to steal some honey. Virkayu, on the other hand, hey, guess what? You want some true damage to deal with those increased resistances? Hello, Kraken Slayer, stop building Divine Sunder, although it does have a bit of a increased benefit this patch. I still think if you're going Kraken Slayer and you're enjoying the core fighter itemization, throwing in a Blade of the Rune King maybe, you are absolutely destroying the game as this champion. It is an incredibly different playstyle, and if that's not your playstyle, then Trinity Force is something you can really run. It has the same HP as Divine Sunder, and honestly seems to be doing better than that or Kraken at the moment. Kraken making you a big glass cannon, yeah, of course you can be overkill, but the champion is still great in the right hands. Learn to play all the itemization styles, and you will thrive as Virkayu. Yes, Rengar is an assassin. Yes, assassin's burst damage is hit a little bit, but again, Rengar, like Kha'Zix, is overkilling people anyway. And in those situations where you aren't overkilling them and they get away with a small amount of HP, you're Rengar. He absolutely loves extended fights, which means if you are a great Rengar player who understands bush play, empowered ability usage in terms of flexing which one you need to use, you will have no issue playing in the current meta. Obviously, it does mean the more bruisery builds are going to be more successful than they were last patch, but that doesn't mean first strike full and assassin is dead. You 100% can play it, you can win in challenge, you can win in diamond, you can win in gold. Yes, his win rate data is down because of the reduction in the core burst damage, especially in your early to mid before we get itemization, but overall the champion is still an S tier champion. Don't let the memes throw you. The cat is the lead hunter. Now, data will suggest that Virkayu and Graves do not deserve to be on this list. However, that's why we combine data with analysis expertise and sort of nuanced understanding. Graves is still gonna run over anybody if you're a good pilot of the champion. Jungle flow and game flow is exactly what you want. If you just need to farm a little bit and become unholy tanky with a lot of CS, then you can do that. But at the same time, what does it mean when you have more resistances, more HP? Longer fights with DPS, and guess what? While Graves does enjoy a Dark Harvest Lethality Burst combo, he's also great at just chasing people down with auto attacks and E resets. So really, if you're struggling to play Graves on this patch, that is more of a skill issue than a champion issue. Alright, onto the A tier page, and starting off with Rek'Sai. Her win rate data is looking very good, but she is worse off in theory than she was in the previous patch. However, having percentage HP damages can help mitigate certain HP increases. True damage can help negate the armor and magic resist growth that all champions received. So Rek'Sai on that component is definitely having a lot of fun provided you hit your combos correctly, but overall, because you kind of like that assassin playstyle on Rek'Sai, that will definitely take a hit, but your Conqueror DPS fighter over time playstyle will absolutely be fine and you will still be thriving in the current game state. I do not see a reason why Rek'Sai would cease to be a great pick in solo queue. Kayn, on the other hand, yes, while Blue Kayn overkilled anyone and will still thrive and have no issue being an assassin, he will of course feel those damages in his base form and obviously before he gets really rolling with his itemization. Ross, on the other hand, is absolutely loving every aspect about this change because while his sustain was inherently nerfed, well, directly nerfed, with him getting the resistances and HP as well, who's really gonna kill him? And when you build correctly with your Gore Drinker variations and going red form, there's nothing that can really stop you. In the couple of games I tested, I saw Red Kayn twice and it was really absolutely obnoxious to deal with for our team. And for a more hands-on approach, I put a gameplay of it on my gameplay channel. So basically you can see that red form, that's dominating. In blue form, yes, it's a little weaker, but it will still be serviceable for you. Now, the champion that definitely is better than she was last patch is Lilia. Because we have the built-in sustain and heal now, because we like to build a lot of HP as well, people are not going to be able to kill her. She also has percentage max HP on her passive, which means you have more HP, she doesn't really care as much, it doesn't hit her as hard, the damage is obscene, and the inherent tankiness from her buffs as well as her own personal itemization means she's impossible to deal with because if you can't stick to her, you can't kill her, but she can easily kill you. Next up we have Kindred, and along with the skirmishing meta where we need DPS damage over time as well as a bit of a percentage execute, Kindred is here to thrive when the E is primed. But while that has a missing HP component, the W has a current HP component, so Kindred's really suited, shall we say, to dealing with the current meta. Obviously, the heal passive was nerfed like every other champion in the game, but that doesn't really matter when you are getting that back through base stats and also being able to compromise enemy stats through your own kit. Itemization, full-on crit, assassination. They also love to build Blade of the Rune King. The build versatility in Kindred is absolutely insane, and no matter what happens in the meta, what champions you're facing, you will find a way to deal with it in these extended fights while having a huge advantage over enemy junglers. Next up we have Fiddlesticks, and again, this is just a direct buff to the champion because he doesn't change ever. He's always strong, he always will be strong, and because he's got builds and sustain, you're not going to be able to do much about it. His ultimate will still dominate every single fight provided you land it correctly, and because he can farm, chill, and get stronger through the level scaling, because that's the thing, right? We get more HP, armor, magic resist per level. So the more levels ahead you are, the more difficult it is for enemy champions to deal with you. And because you've got the sucky suck heal, and you can get ahead through your innate farming and sequencing, it's going to be difficult for enemy champions to actually kill you. But as I said, this is one of the best reworks we're going to have in the game because he will always be this borderline OP or S tier champion that people just don't want to play. But I'm telling you, play it, you will win. Next up we have Zac, because if you weren't unkillable before, you're not unkillable now. And you also have the Sunfire Demonic's Embrace combo, which will do even more damage for you while no one can kill you. So if there are longer fights and you have more damage over time, and you have more sustain over time because of your blobbies, what's gonna happen to you exactly? And obviously we have CC for days, actually for decades, and a ganking tool that allows you to always remain active. Go ahead, enjoy a slime ball like it's the 90s. Now, while Echo did have a nerf on his shield, the champion as a whole is still quite strong. I had the displeasure of facing one as a very squishy support, and I didn't have fun at all. Yes, you 100% lack in terms of your sequencing, you definitely lack in terms of you getting ahead in experience, but because you're such a disgusting snowballing champion, because you're one of the best champions to main and spam, you have so much control over the game as a whole. Early game, you're definitely weaker. But in the mid and the late game, you can disrupt long fights, you love to reset with your ultimate, the W stun is still great. And again, when it comes to assassinating squishy, Echo often overkills people, so you should have no issue there. Now finally, I am putting Diana here against my better judgment because her win rate has definitely gone down. As we mentioned, burst is down, which means her burst itemization is down. She does have the Nash's Tooth Rockabell combo that is still doing a little bit better, but why not survive and thrive while doing damage over time? That means the Sunfire, Demonic's Embrace, and Nash's build, you can do that. You can rush Nash's if you want and then into Sunfire, it doesn't really matter. I covered this in a video last month. This has the best win rate. Her best mythic is that Sunfire, which means you're unkillable, you burn down the fools around you, and you can carry on playing the champion, sequencing well and getting that huge experience lead, which will again make you even tankier. You're welcome. And for the low elo page, Master Yi is seemingly unstoppable. Obviously, when you have a true damage Kraken build, you have true damage in your kit, and of course you do on-hit plus percentage damage from Blade of the Rune King, what is gonna stop you? And it's low elo, which means no one's gonna stop you anyway, even if they had the CC component. The biggest enjoyer here is Nocturne is still okay, but definitely really hit hard on the live patch. We do have, though, the Warwick, even though his Q heal was nerfed, the passive heal, yeah, that wasn't really nerfed, which means if you're a W maxer, which you technically should be, you're gonna have no issue out-sustaining people anyway. The hidden OP here is definitely the Mordekaiser. Because you can end up farming extremely quickly and get those level leads, you have tick damage over time, you have an ultimate that steals stats as you yeet them to Brazil, and it's quite formulaic. You can clear, you can skirmish, you can take anyone out of the game with that ultimate, as I just said. Basically, there's nothing he can't do in low either that allows you to carry you. And I've been selling this for about a year now, so way ahead of the curve. Go ahead, play Mordekaiser in low elo, switch your brain off, enjoy your LP gains. Finally, we have the high elo page, and not much is different from the, typical meta that we see for everybody else. Obviously, Talia and Graves are going to be performing even better in this arena. Kindred as well. Nidalee really suffering in every sort of other metric, but for high elo, yeah, she's still dominating everybody. Rek'Sai as well. And there's so many other champions that you can use in high elo. So many other champions that if you know how to use them and you know how to jungle, you will have no issue adapting to this meta and still finding great success. The key is for high elos to see what is played the most, what you can play against it, what you need to ban, and how you can kind of fit into what champions you're seeing most often. Because games are so limited and you play against the same players so often, as long as you can find that little gap to wriggle around in the meta and adapt to whatever Riot brings you, if you're good on the champion, you'll have no issues. But these are the ones you're seeing the most, these are the ones with the best win rates, and these are all the champions for every rank that you need in the new meta 12.10. Best of luck in your solo queue grinding, and I will see you in the next version of Best Junglers. If you want to know how to jungle in this meta to the best of your ability, click the link in the top right.